Okay, I'm delighted to have Deputy Chief McMahill with us from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I just have a few questions for you. And number one was, could you tell our audience where you were when you first learned about October 1?
So it's very, I'll never forget it, obviously, but my husband and I have 5 children. We both work for Metro. Oddly enough, we never go to the Strip, but that Sunday night, we took our 3 youngest children to see Blue Man Group. As we were walking into the show, my daughters kept commenting on how cute all the girls looked in their country attire. I get chills just thinking about it. We were home for 45 minutes, put our kids to bed, the phone rang, my husband's the undersheriff, I was a captain, and it was like all hell broke loose in our home. And I've never gotten ready and thrown my uniform on as quick as both of us did that night. He went one direction and I went the other. I was in charge of the criminal investigation. He went down and wanted to actually see the scene and help the sheriff in any way that he could. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget trying to account for the people that were in my section. And as the night progressed, slowly trying to comprehend the magnitude of what it is that just happened in our own community.
Yeah, I can imagine how difficult that had to be for you. I know for those of us who are not in law enforcement, it was difficult enough, but to try to figure out what was going on. So, thank you to you and your husband for your service and what you did. Obviously we could talk a very long time about what Metro's response was the night of and in the aftermath, but if you could kind of give us a high level view of, how was Metro involved that night and the months that followed?
So when I think about our response, I picture ground zero, and that means something to us here in this country when you hear that type of language. Our men and women that night, look, there were flaws, and we've covered those in an after action report, but the word that comes to my mind is just pride. I'm so proud. It was one of our shining moments. I showed up at the command post that night, the station across from the Welcome to Las Vegas sign, and I saw row after row after row of men and women in uniform, all different uniforms, from across. It was a major cross section of first responders that live here in this valley, that came from home, that came from a school that they were supposed to be protecting, U.S. Marshals. We had everybody that you could possibly imagine. Those rows of people lined up to go in to resolve this issue. It was incredible, actually, and the support that we received. This was our jurisdiction, but make no mistake about it, we had help from all over Southern Nevada. We had police departments in California calling our sheriff and saying, we've got an airplane, we can get people there, what do you need? It was remarkable. And I can tell you that the men and women on this agency and all of our partnering agencies, they followed their training to a T that day. And it's why we were so successful in mitigating this threat as quickly as we did and saving as many lives as we were able to save that day.
Yeah, that response obviously was truly heroic, not just from Metro, but as you indicated, the other agencies and people from all over the place. So just want to take a chance to say thank you to everyone who responded that evening and in the aftermath. And the final question I have for you, Deputy Chief, is just on this 3rd anniversary of October 1, is there anything that you would like to say either on your own behalf or on behalf of the Metropolitan Police Department to those who were impacted by the events of that evening?
I can't believe it's been 3 years. There's days where it seems like yesterday, when we were still in what I call the fog of war. But it has been 3 years, and I think what I want people to know from me personally is that the family members of those that were lost. We have an after action report that we authored, and I've never seen in any other after action report a section called in memoriam, and that memory piece lists every single victim that we lost that day. What I want them to know on behalf of every man and woman that responded that night, regardless of what first responder agency you work for, is that we will never forget them. We'll never forget them. We'll never forget the people that love them. And by the way, we were at 58 people. We're now at 60. We lost 2 additional lives in this last 3 years as a direct result of being injured that day. I think I just want them to know most importantly is we will never forget. We go around the world presenting this mass shooting to other law enforcement agencies, and every single time we close out with all of the pictures of the people that were lost that day. We will never forget. as long as I'm living, I'll never forget the men and women that we wrote this report for, that we go out and we try to do our best for every day.
Very well stated. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time for joining us here today. And thank you so much for your service to our community.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.